Hey guys, welcome back. This is a brand new series where we'll be diving deeper into web development. We'll be learning CSS. In the previous video, we were learning basic HTML and there were a lot of videos which we put up, quite a few of them. So do go and check them out if you want to learn HTML. But once you're done with HTML, the next step you go forward is CSS. And one thing which you have to know is why CSS is used and what are the key terms and how to use them. So that's what we're going to be looking at in this series. And this will be the first video of the CSS series. So without any further ado, let's jump into the video and see how to create and write CSS which can make your website much more beautiful. So to start off, what I've done is I've gone ahead and created a folder in my desktop and I've added two files in that folder. That folder is called CSS and the two files inside that folder are index.html and style.css. And index.html is the HTML file. This is a simple one, and CSS style.css is the CSS file. So let me just show you the basic HTML outline. So let me open this with live server so that you can see the basic outline. So this is the web page. I haven't added a lot to it. It's just basic content like Innovation Cloud and all of that, and written some stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link this CSS, what I've written. It's quite some lines. It's about 152 lines. It's a lot of lines written together in that CSS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that CSS, link it to the HTML file. So to do that, you have something called as a link tag. And this is added to the head tag, inside the head element. So what you do is you add the link tag. And usually you have two attributes. One is the rel, which tells you what this is about, like the attribute name, relationship kind of attribute. And this link is for a style sheet. Basically, CSS is cascading style sheets. So this link is for a style sheet, and href tells you where you're linking it to. Like the href in a tags, you have the href in link tags, and I'm linking it to the style.css. Now both of them are in the same folder. So what we do is you put a dot and a slash. This brings you to the contents of the same folder and you go and link the style.css. So now once the style.css is linked, you save it and let's look at the page. Now it's much more different, it's on a whole another level. So here we have a simple web page created using HTML and CSS. And you can see the difference between just an HTML page and the page which has HTML and CSS. And this looks much better than a page which has just HTML. So let's go ahead and let's see how we can create something as wonderful as this. So when it comes to CSS, there are actually two ways to write CSS, and one is called as the CSS rule set and one is called as the CSS inline styling. And when it comes to the rule set, you have some kind of anatomy, which is a naming, and when it comes to inline style, you have certain naming. So before we go ahead and we dive deeper into writing the CSS code, let's learn some terms which will help us communicate in CSS much better. So first off, in the rule set, we have 5 different terminologies. One is a selector, which is the beginning of the rule set, and basically whatever you're targeting in particular, like if you're targeting the P tag, which is a paragraph tag, or if you're targeting the H1, the heading 1 tags, that's a selector. And then you have the declaration block where you will be writing your basic CSS, and this goes inside curly braces, and whatever you have inside the curly braces is called as the declaration block. And next you have declaration. These are each CSS statements that you write. So declaration has two parts. One's the property and one's the value. The property is the first part that you write. It's like the color, the font or something like that. And next is the value which you give it, like the color of green or blue. These 5 keywords are what you basically write in a CSS rule set. And when you're going to CSS inline style, you have another 5 key terms which you have to know. One is the opening tag, where the start of the HTML, like for example, if you're starting the P tag, you have the opening tag, right? And that's where you write your inline style. As you can see in the example out there, you have the P tag, which is the opening tag, and then inside there you write the style and all of that. So that's the opening tag. And next, the attribute, where you write it in style and you write the basic CSS which is there. That's the attribute. And next, again, like in CSS rule set, you have something called as a declaration out here, like each CSS line. And you have for the declaration two parts, one's the property and one's the value. So these are the same things, like declaration, property, value are the same for both CSS rule set and CSS inline style. So this is the basic CSS anatomy, which you have to know before you go ahead and talk with anyone or learn any kind of CSS. You have to know what's the keywords there. So for now, I have taken a different code. The CSS file is empty. This is a HTML file. Now let me open this with live server, and you can see the basic HTML file, like image, h1s, you have the p tags and all of that written out there. So this is the basic HTML written out here. Now let me try it with inline styling. So first you go to the opening tag, which is the p tag I'm going to work with right now. And next you have to write the attribute, basically the whole CSS. So for the attribute, what you got to do is you've got to give the style, right? So we say style equal to, and we put double quotes. And next you have the declaration block, basically, which contains both the property and the value. So I'm going to give a color for this first. So we'll give the property, which is the color, and then we'll give a color of green, which is the value, basically. And you end it with a semicolon. Now once you save it, you can see this line has changed to green. Let me increase the font. Yeah, this size has increased to green. Okay, you can see that. So let's go ahead and let's do more inline styling. So this is the first declaration block given. Let's give another declaration block. We'll give a space for just for namesake. And next we'll give it a font size, and we'll keep the font size to be around 20 pixels, and that'll be pretty big, I think. Okay, now it's increased, not pretty big. It's increased the size from what it was initially to 20 pixels. Now let me increase it to 30 pixels. You can see it's even more bigger. So this is another styling. So I'm just styling the basic HTML using inline styling. This is basic inline styling. Now let me remove this, and we'll work with CSS rule set. Basically we are gonna write the CSS outside the body, and there are two ways to do this. One is writing the CSS inside the head tag, or creating a separate file altogether. So let's look at both the ways. Now to write CSS inside the head tag, what you got to create is the style tag first. So this is a style tag. Yeah, now that's for CSS, and inside this whatever you write is the CSS. So let me save this. You can see it's back to the original size and original color. So we'll write the declaration block, which is the p tag, and you have it inside here. And then inside the declaration block, let's go and write the declaration statements, each one of them. Like the color, we'll give the property of color and the value of blue, let's say. Save it. Now it's in blue in color. We'll change the font size, and we'll keep it at 35 pixels. It's even more bigger now. Yes. And let's change the, let's say font family. And let's just go the first one off with here. That's a different font family. It's different from the original ones here. So like this is called as writing the style inside the same HTML file. But one problem with this is that as you go and write a lot more CSS, it just makes it much harder to see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this whole thing, what you wrote here, cut it. We do cut, and then we remove the style tags too. We'll save this. We'll create a separate file called style.css, and we will go ahead and paste it here. So the p tag is here, the color and everything is here. But once you save it, it's still not there yet, because you haven't basically linked the HTML to the CSS. So only then the CSS will know, okay, I have to change the p tag out here in specific. So what it'll do is it'll go here. We'll go to the head tag, and we'll use a link tag. href is where is the style sheet. So you do // to be in the same folder, and we go to style.css. Once you save it, you can see same effect is here, and I've put the style in a separate file altogether, and we have it out here. That's the way of writing CSS. You can do it in 3 different ways altogether. 3 ways of doing it. One is the inline styling, and this is called as an internal style sheet. Basically, you're writing it inside the HTML file itself, so it's called as an internal style sheet. And when you create a separate file and write it there, it's called as an external style sheet. So this is the basic CSS form of writing it. Now we'll look at more of CSS in the upcoming videos. So that's it from me in this video. Stay tuned, and thanks a lot for watching.